Georgia saw violent demonstrations and the resignation of the Interior Minister after videos were published appearing to show inmates of a men's prison being sexually abused. The distressing scenes suggest broom handles and a warder's truncheon were being used. Grim scenes which were particularly sensitive given that Georgia is only a few days from a presidential election. And it's also highly embarrassing for President Mikheil Saakashvili, who's seeking re-election. But now a forensic medical expert from Lithuania, called in by the authorities, says the evidence of sexual abuse doesn't stand up. The expert is Romas Radisious, who's director of the State Service of Forensic Medicine in Lithuania. I spoke to him earlier, and I first asked him how he got involved in this case.
Об этом деле я сначала узнал с нашего, то есть с литовского телевидения.
First of all, I heard about the case on television, on mass media in Lithuania, and then our Ministry of Justice got in touch with me and sent me to Georgia in connection with these events.
When you got there, were you able to speak to the prisoners that are in these films?
Да, во время моего визита в Грузии.
Yes, during my visit to Georgia, I was able to talk to 2 prisoners who feature in these films, and they were featuring in a way that suggested that they were abused with some objects.
What did they tell you about what happened?
Поскольку я в Грузии был как...
Because I was in Georgia as a medical officer, as a forensic expert, on the request of the Georgian prosecution office, I was mostly interested in that particular medical angle, whether or not there had been any sexual abuse with objects. So this is what my question focused on. And when they answered, they categorically denied the fact that they had been abused with any foreign object. They said that they had been mistreated in various ways, but they denied any sexual violence against them.
Did they say that they were actively involved in these films? What did they say about the films themselves?
Мне лично объяснение они...
They did not explain in great detail how they appeared in those films. The Georgian prosecutor's office knows more about it, but they only told me that they were told to stand in certain positions and do certain things.
They were told to act as if they were being abused, is that correct?
Да, один из моих осмотренных заключенных.
Yes, one of them told me exactly how he was asked to behave in a certain way, but the second one did not want to talk about this. He simply said that there were tortures, use of handcuffs, but not sexual violence towards him.
What is your conclusion from what they said to you, from your investigations, and from looking at the films? What is your conclusion?
Да, так говоря об этих двух конкретных случаях.
So, looking at these particular 2 cases featured in the video, I told the Georgian prosecution that I need to examine these 2 detainees because some signs of such mistreatment should have been visible. Even a year later, there should have been signs on the body of some kinds of objects that were supposedly inserted inside them. And there were no such signs in those parts of the body where they should have been. So from the medical point of view, I can deny the fact of sexual mistreatment of the kind that was shown in the video.
Is it not also possible that given the shame that surrounds this kind of allegation, the men might want to deny or cover up that it had happened?
Конечно, из-за суда человек может много чего.
Yes, of course. People can hide all sorts of things out of shame. But if you saw the objects that we're talking about, that is a policeman's baton and a broom, and the films show how these objects were inserted in a body, and if you insert these objects into someone's body, they will leave marks on the body for a long period of time.
What is your overall conclusion from this? Do you think this was a staged political demonstration of some kind of act put on?
К сожалению, я в Грузии был в качестве судебно-медицинского.
As far as my conclusions are concerned, I went to Georgia as a doctor, and I can only give you medical evidence. I may have my own private opinion with regard to the political implications of it all, but I have no right to talk about them publicly.
But some people will say this is inevitably political. You were brought in, a Lithuanian, a friendly government to the government of Georgia, and that you found what you were expected to find.
Я очень просто могу ответить на этот вопрос.
Well, I can give you a simple answer to this. If any doctor, friendly or otherwise, goes to Georgia and examines the same people, they're going to come to the same conclusions, because there is no evidence of sexual violence on their bodies.
Romas Radisious there of the State Service of Forensic Medicine of Lithuania. Well, when the videos were originally published, the opposition in Georgia made a great deal of them, condemning the government for allowing this kind of thing to go on in their prisons. So what do the opposition make of the doctor's findings now? Well, I spoke to Irakli Alasania. He's Georgia's former ambassador at the United Nations, now an opposition candidate for the Georgian Dream Alliance. We played him what the doctor had said and then asked for his comments.
Well, let me tell you, this brutal scenes of the torture points out in a very profound and definite way that there is an organic structural problem in the system of the governance in this country. And those around the president are part of the culture of non-responsibility, denial, because the scenes were shown on TV. We all saw this. The Georgian public saw this, and clearly what the gentleman was saying, for me, it lacks the credibility.
So you don't believe him? You think he's mistaken or he's lying?
No, probably he was not shown the prisoners that were abused directly in this way, because it is on TV, it is on footage, and probably he didn't see. I don't want to go into the details.
He told me that he saw the footage and that the prisoners he spoke to were the people he recognized from that footage.
I understand. It doesn't say a thing to me. What I saw on TV, what the Georgian public saw on TV was brutal, it was torture, it was rape. And this is why what we're seeing in the streets of Tbilisi, what we're seeing in the streets of other cities in Georgia, it's a rage. It's a righteous rage of people that they don't want to have this kind of government that tolerates the torture in the prisons.
But the evidence for this is this video footage, which seems now to have been undermined by medical investigation. Surely that is important, isn't it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The journalists, the medical experts, Georgian church, they all went to prisons. They interviewed people in there. They were saying that there were even more brutal acts conducted in the prisons, which we don't know yet. So probably the investigation that will be launched into it will surface more evidence towards this.
So you don't have any faith in this investigation at all?
Absolutely not.
You think the man simply has said what he's been told to say?
No, I wouldn't go into details. My assumption is that he didn't see the right people and he didn't interview the right people. But no matter what he says, I know what I saw on the footage. And this footage is authentic because the National Security Advisor of the President and other officials, they accepted the guilt.
But isn't the point that this is all coming on the eve of the election, and to a lot of people they'll say, well, this is simply a bit of electioneering, really. Why put out the video now?
Well, we don't know how they surfaced. The fact that the government officials, civil servants, were involved in this kind of mass torturing. And what we saw in reality is the 21st century Inquisition. And we want to put an end to this. The Georgian people want to put an end to this, and they will put out the verdict on the October 1st election.
Irakli Alasania, Georgia's former ambassador at the United Nations, now an opposition candidate for the Georgian Dream Alliance for the election which takes place on October the 1st. You're listening to NewsHour.